It's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy and Ascension forecast for Sunday, August 21st to Saturday, August 27th. So last week was a very energetic week. It was our integration week. We had lots of CMEs and solar flares pop off the sun, which definitely activated some of those light codes that we received under the Lionsgate portal and under the full moon in Aquarius. It was exhausting. It also had a lot of pressure going on in our heads, in our crowns, and we will likely continue to see those particular Schumann Resonance popping off as we move into the fall. Why? Because the fall is a very important time. Not only is it a time to harvest the energetic intentions in which we set out at the beginning of the year, but we are in retrograde season and we move back into eclipse season. This would be a great time to go ahead, go back, listen to the energy forecast for 2022. I broke it down into months so that we know what was going on, what we can expect. And if you're a little bit curious about the current cycle that we're in, I would definitely recommend what September, October, and November has to offer. We're definitely going to be feeling the shift, and especially seeing as we just walk through the Lionsgate portal and we are moving into Virgo season, that is when we're going to see some things manifest. But first, we have the last quarter moon in Taurus taking place as we speak here on the 19th. The last quarter moon is always a completion point, bringing things full circle, if you will, since the new moon in Leo, and seeing as we've had plenty of new information and details and perspectives emerge since that full moon in Aquarius just last week, we have some processing to do. We have some sorting out to do. This particular last quarter moon in Taurus is taking place at a 26 degree, which is a little bit of a flashback and a reminder to April and May when we had our eclipse energy on that 26 degree of the Scorpio and Taurus axis. If you're feeling the pressure, the intensity building up in your body Friday as we sit here in the live chat, thank you very much for joining me. You may wonder whether your head is actually going to explode, whether you are going to reach your breaking point, your boiling point, and just lose your shit. Who are we going to blame for that? We're going to blame Mars. Mars is currently at the critical ending degrees of this Taurus energy as he prepares to move into Gemini energy on the 20th. If you haven't listened to that astro forecast, I'm going to recommend you do so. We have a very, very long transit with Mars being in Gemini, taking us all the way into 2023. We will have Mars in Gemini until March of 2023 because Mars will be going retrograde. That is right. Retrograde season is upon us deep in the fall. Again, another huge reason why the fall is a pretty interesting time astrologically and, of course, energetically. So, just a little bit of a heads up. Mercury, our buddy, our pal, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information, communication, and how it is that we express ourselves, is in its pre-shadow period. That is right, my friends. We are going to be entering into our last Mercury retrograde for the year on September 9th, which means our confusion, our communication, our information, everything is going to be slowing down the closer that we get to September 9th. And where Mercury is currently in its place of power in Virgo, really doing a number on our mental planes, focusing in on the smaller details of our lives, processing, reorganizing, restructuring all the practical facts of our lives, we are definitely going to feel a lot of continued pressure in the mental plane now that Mars is moving into Gemini, Mercury wrapping up its time in its place of power in Virgo, Mercury slowing down each and every day as we get closer to September 9th, we are going to feel the pull and the pressure all up in our headspace. And many of you, I know myself, have been suffering pretty much a week-long migraine. Now, is that due to my physical illness? Yes. Is the physical illness flaring up and popping off because of the CMEs and solar flares? Yes, that is the connection that each and every single one of us has to make. But bottom line, regardless of whether you have any health problems or not, the energy coming into the cosmos right now is coming in hot and heavy through the crown. That's why we have all this pressure in our heads, sinus issues, eyes popping, ears popping, jaw issues. We're going to talk about the Ascension symptoms in just a bit, but just piece it together. Everything that we're talking about here has a mental plane connection. Mercury, Virgo, Mars and Gemini, right? We got all this energy coming in. We have to process. We have to get in alignment. Again, before Mercury goes retrograde. So what do we got going on this week? Well, like I said, it is Mercury's final days in its place of power in Virgo energy. This is also the final days of Leo season. We will be jumping into Virgo season here on the 22nd. Many of you asking when we can start seeing some of the dreams, the visions that we've been trying to manifest actually, come to life. Well, that's what Virgo season is all about. This is the time of harvest, if you will. And although it will be a slow start, we will start seeing the pieces come together shortly after the new moon in Virgo, which we will be building to all this week. This week we have Uranus, the great awakener, shaking us up, rattling us to our core, showing us where we have to be open to new changes, where it is that we got to get a little bit rebellious in life, where it is that we got to kind of open our minds up to new possibilities, is going retrograde. That is right. We have all of the major heavy-hitting planets going retrograde. Another reason why fall is super important. Uranus going retrograde will be taking place on the 24th. We're going to do a little bit of an inner journey. Instead of constantly seeing things in our external realms pop off to awaken us to a different perspective, now we're going to have to sit with ourselves. The realizations, the aha moments, the light bulb, the flashes will be taking place inside of us, especially as those light codes get activated and come online. We have Mercury, again, moving out of its place of power in Virgo and locking into Libra energy on the 25th. Pay attention. Pay attention to the topics and themes that come up this week, especially where your relationships are concerned. Why? Because Mercury will get a couple of degrees into this Libran energy, very focused on relationships, the relationship that we have with ourselves, the relationship that we have with other people in our lives. We're compromised. Cooperation is concerned. We have to rebalance the scales, the energetic exchange within our personal relationships. And here's the thing, Mercury will be going retrograde in this Libran energy, backtracking, retracing our steps, and then dipping back into Virgo energy again, its place of power. So you want to pay attention to the topics and themes, the conversations, the information coming in and coming up this week, because this is likely going to set the stage for what it is that Mercury's retrograde is going to bring to us full force. And like I mentioned, we are going to wrap the last full week of August up with a new moon in Virgo taking place on the 27th. The new moon in Virgo is definitely going to be heavy, definitely going to be weighted. Why? Because it's an earth energy. Why does that matter? Because we're in our physical realms, in our physical bodies, and it's time for us to do better. We have to constantly be pushing ourselves to improve. We have the perfectionism of Virgo energy really holding a lot of pressure over us right now. It's exhausting to constantly have to be our best selves. Sometimes you just want to wake up and choose violence. Sometimes you just want to live in that blissful state of ignorance. But unfortunately, when you get spiritually activated, there is no time for that. We constantly have to be evolving, pushing ourselves to the next levels of enlightenment, of consciousness. And in this Virgo energy, we are definitely focused on new routines, new habits where our health and wellness is concerned. Do not be fooled, though. We are going to be heavy into organizing our physical realms, our physical details in our circumstances, in our realities. This is no wonder that, kids get back to school. Vacations are over. We get back to reality at this particular point in time in the calendar. Virgo season needs us get back to the nitty-gritty of our lives, to fixate on the details, to make sure that we are having the best routines, the easiest way to move through our days, completing our tasks, our chores, our responsibilities, showing us where it is we need to create more time and energy for ourselves to focus on balancing the mind, the body, the soul. There is a heavy influence on the mental plane, on our mental health, rearranging our thoughts, our perspective, our understanding, what is important to get focused on, because of course, Mercury rules over Virgo energy. But again, Mercury is slowly falling asleep at the wheel and will be totally unconscious and in a dream realm come September 9th. So before we jump into September, we got to wrap up August. Just a reminder, please go listen to the energy forecast that I put out for August. Take a little moment to reflect back on what the month has been, where it is that, there's been some huge changes, huge developments in your life. Again, August was about the number 8, and the number 8 is the transitional adjustment period from us moving from one state to the other, where death, rebirth, renewal, and huge transformation is concerned. What is this setting us up for? Well, it's setting us up for September, which brings us the number 9. I will be doing, again, the energy forecast for September, but just a little preview. Number 9 is about completion. No coinkydink that we are moving into harvest season under the influence of number 9, where we bring everything full circle. We wrap things up. We tie up the loose ends. We reap all the rewards from our energetic influences that we've been putting forth throughout the year. Again, great time to go back and listen to the whole year in review with the energy forecast for 2022. Get a little bit of a preview of the months we still have left and a little bit of a reflection point over the months that we've already completed. So that sounds like a very energetic week for us to jump into. You wouldn't be wrong. But before we jump into the Ascension symptoms, I just want to cover a couple of things. First of all, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for showing up in the chat. I want to thank you for the love, for the support, for the likes, for the shares, for the comments. So many of you continue to come out of the woodwork here this week to say, hey, I'm doing good. Thanks for the support. Thanks for the validation. You guys really running on that, love and support train that I talked about last week. How beautiful of a mind shift it has been over these last couple of weeks to hear more from the people that are doing well, from the people that are just getting up and doing the work every day, than hearing from the complainers. So I want to thank you so much for that shift in energy, for that vibe. While I'm speaking about thanks, I don't know if you noticed, YouTube activated this thanks button that should be appearing underneath my videos. A couple months ago, I had turned off all the monetization settings on YouTube because YouTube takes a huge chunk of change, and I was not getting the amount of the donations that y'all were sending my way, and I got really ticked off because I do not want to make the big guys any richer than they already are. But then they started pushing, different buttons on me and different activations and all this kind of stuff, and I stopped and I thought about it, and guess what? Well, I guess maybe 70% of whatever is better than 0% of zero. So for those of you that are actively on this YouTube and set up to make donations through your YouTube account, those buttons should be activated both in the chat and underneath each video. I want to thank you so much for the love, for the support, especially in the monetary sense as well. For those of you that are looking to donate off of YouTube, just check the link below the video to take you to my main menu, and we can go through PayPal. Your love, it's so appreciated. Again, I hate talking about money, but some of y'all just feel that that is the best way to show the love and I guess gratitude that y'all feel for having me do these informational videos and to keep us on the right page. And as uncomfortable as I am receiving those financial donations, I just want to thank y'all so much and just wanted to bring those new features to your attention. So I want to backtrack there for a second. I said how nice it was to hear from the people doing the work. So I've had a couple people reach out this week on asking, like, what do you mean by doing the work? So what I mean by that is constantly trying to be better than you were yesterday, doing the shadow work, the ugly emotional work. You know, some people feel it necessary to go to therapy. That would be doing the work. Some people don't need to go to therapy. Some people just need to keep themselves accountable by doing the shadow work. You can find, assistance in doing that through the moon guides that I put out for each of the moon events. That dives into the shadow work. But basically, it's keeping yourself accountable. It's recognizing where it is that you've played the toxic role in other people's lives. It's where you need to awaken to the inner child healing work that needs to be done by becoming the version of the person that you needed as a child. It is cutting through the crap of the ego. It is cutting through the egoic identity and avatar. It is realizing that you are more than just a body that was meant to go to work to do a 9 to 5 to keep up with the Joneses in this materialistic realm. It is opening your eyes up to the spiritual soul self being that you currently are and constantly ripping away the layers of the ego identity that you've been conditioned to actually pour your time and energy into. So for those of you that are like, you know what, I journal, I meditate, I do this, I do that, I go to therapy, I take care of my body, like, you're doing the work. If you were living in a state of ignorance, now, mind you, it would be super, super blissful compared to what we're currently working through. You wouldn't be doing the work. If you were so attached to your egoic avatar that you thought that this was it, you wouldn't be doing the work. If you literally did not see that there is more to life than just this physical body and physical circumstance, then you would not be doing the work. We have to do the emotional work to heal, right? We all have generational trauma, generational wounds. We've all created wounds for ourselves in this particular lifetime and previous lifetimes. It's about getting control over your unconscious self. And of course, again, peeling back the layers of that ugly onion, crying at times in order for us to get to the deep-seated, soul space of the matter, which is our enlightenment, our awareness, our evolvement. We are here to do what we got to do to be our best selves, to reach our highest potential. And yes, it is painful. It is exhausting. Some days what I wouldn't give just to wake up and just not be awakened, just to go back to sleep, live in this, blissful state of ignorance, where we actually think that this 3D reality matrix is life. That would be beautiful, but it is not our path. And unfortunately, fortunately, we are spiritual warriors destined for a higher calling, and that's why we're here to do the hard work. So for those of you wondering, am I doing the work? Well, are you waking up every day trying to be better than you were yesterday? Are you constantly trying to dive into your reactions to the outside world to figure out where that trigger and activation actually stem from? Are you doing the work to understand your inner psychological perspective? Are you constantly pushing yourself to be the highest form of intelligence, of potential that your soul was destined to be? It can be exhausting. Not every day do we have to continue to push ourselves forward. Sometimes we need a rest. Sometimes we need a break. But overall, if you're listening to me, it is likely that you are, in some capacity, on the right path, doing the work. So for those of you wondering if you're doing the work, if you're still listening, I would say yes. Now, that being said, moving into Virgo season, we are going to feel exhausted from trying to be better, from trying to improve, from trying to grow, for trying to be the bigger, better person. Why? Because Virgo energy is the healer energy of the zodiac, the physical healer. The Virgo energy sits across from the Piscean energy. The Piscean energy is the soul healer, the emotional healer. Well, Virgo energy is the physical healer, our physical lives. Why? Virgo is earth energy, connects us to the physical realm. Pisces is the water energy, connects us to our intuition, our higher self, the emotional realm. The OCD and perfectionism comes out full stop in Virgo season. The pressure is going to be intense. And here's the thing. It ain't the pressure coming from the outside world. It's the pressure coming from the inside world. With all of these planets now going retrograde, again, when Uranus goes retrograde, all the outer planets will be retrograde. When Mercury goes retrograde, that's an inner planet, but that is adding to the retrograde energy, the inner journey that we have to do. And then we have Mars, another inner planet going retrograde. There is going to be a whole lot of planets retrograde. Again, I do recommend you go listen to the energy forecast for 2022 that covers September, October, November. Some would say, well, why are you leaving out December? Well, because December's kind of the bittersweet ending and beginning. We're currently in the harvest season, which means that there are peak energies, there's peak decisions. We got to get going. There's a pressure, there's a urgency, if you will. And with this retrograde season taking us into the final chapter of eclipse season. Yes, you heard me right. We're going to have eclipse season again. There is a whole lot of things that are going to take place that come out of nowhere from now until, I'm going to say, mid-November. And then it starts to settle a little bit. And of course, we move into the ending chapter of the cycle in December. We have that bittersweet ending with the solstice energy in December. And then again, we're prepared to jump into a brand new year. So we got a lot going on. We have a lot to cover. Things are going to seemingly go a little bit, well, as you know, time is elusive, but I'm going to say Virgo season is likely going to slow us down in the moment. Earth energy, right? We have to slow things down a little bit. In our inner realms, though, things are happening very, very quick. And I feel like, time has been a little bit of trickery anyways. And now we're going to see yet another shift on how time is going to work for us and both work against us. So like I said, you may feel like time is just dragging ass in the moment, in the day, but then all of a sudden you're going to get to Friday again, like I do. I wake up and I'm like, Friday again, another live chat again. Didn't I just do this again? Anyways, it's going to be in the moment is going to be low and slow. Retrospect is going to go super fast. We have a lot coming into fruition. Okay. Harvest season is about actually seeing the energetic work that we've been doing in our inner realms to manifest the dreams and visions. We actually start seeing those pieces come to life. And it's a little bit jarring, if you will, because first of all, we're like, damn, didn't realize this was actually going to happen. Sometimes the scariest thing is actually being in the circumstances in which you've prayed for. Sometimes just praying for that vision, for that dream to come true, it's like a hopefulness. Some of us don't even think that, those elements will be able to come true or come to life. And then suddenly when they do, we're like, oh my God, magic is real. Look how powerful I am. What am I going to do with this? What now? Right? So this is very much the season that we are going to be moving into. So expect a little bit of heaviness, a little bit of weight in our physical bodies. Feel that slowing down of time in the moment, but also keep in mind that in our inner realm, especially in our headspace, we're like manic, we're like urgent, There is an urgency, there is a pressure, there's an intensity. We feel like we have had to have everything done yesterday. It is overwhelming. That is where the OCD comes out. That is where the perfectionism comes out. That is what Virgo season is all about. Keep in mind, we do have a couple of days of this Leo energy, and any time that the sun is preparing to move out of one energy and into the other, we get to those final degrees, and we really have to feel that intensity and that pressure. And Leo season has always been about this heart chakra, busting us wide open, cracking us open in order to blossom, to be our best selves, to align with our most authentic potential in our heart and soul. And you best believe that the last couple of days of Leo season, we are going to feel that fire. So what do I want to talk about? Well, pay attention to those heart activations, especially as we wrap up Leo season. We're going to feel a little bit fluttery, let's say, heated, grand in our heart space. We're also going to have to kind of manage our physical energy just a tad because we have a lot of competing energies here. There's one energy trying to slow us down and pump the brakes and make us, act in a controlled manner. Well, then there's other energies that are trying to just, pour gas on a fire and see what kind of sparks and explosions we can create. We really do have to manage our energy this week. And speaking of that, I want to bring attention to the fact that anytime Uranus is involved, we have to talk very, very seriously about the central nervous system. Uranian energy is like a lightning bolt. It brings a lot of electricity into our realm, and we're moving inward with that. So we might feel shaky, we might feel jittery, we might feel anxious, we might feel like we're anticipating something. Keep in mind that Uranus is in Taurus, which likes to wake us up and shake us up to sudden changes in relationships, in routines, in physical circumstances, in money matters. But here's the thing. We're not as easily shook up by outside influences. Now we're moving inward. We're dissecting ourselves to see where it is that we're blocking ourselves from actually making the dramatic changes that we know that we need to make. The Uranian in Taurus energy has always been about shaking us up for us to realize what it is that we're overly attached to, what it is that we're fearful of losing. Many of us in this stage where we have been hoping and praying for a different version of a reality for us to live in, but yet desperately holding on to the old aspects because we're afraid of losing what it is that we're currently not content with if we don't get what it is that we want. It's almost like we would prefer to settle for the old, even though we're done with it, if we don't know for sure that the new is coming. And this is going to be a little bit of, I'm going to say, a central nervous system event here this week. Just keep in mind, we have a lot of pressure going on in the head as well, especially where, Mercury wraps up its last and final day in those final degrees in the Virgo energy that is its place of power on the same day that Uranus goes retrograde. Then Mercury moves into Libra. So that puts us in the new moon window, right? And we know what new moons do. It makes us sit in the darkness. Why? Because the new moon is the dark phase of the moon. There's no light in the sky. We have to sit in our shadows. We have to sit with the uncomfortable thoughts and feelings, recognizing where a change is upon us. And because this new moon is taking place in Virgo, this is about us knowing that we have to create stronger, safer, more healthy ways of living, going through our day-to-day life, going through our tasks and chores, especially with our diet. I want to talk about the diet. Pay attention to your digestion. Now, we've been talking about this, especially when there's some serious light codes coming in. We've had squeamish bellies. Many of us either are still eating crap and hoarding as much as we can into our physical bodies in order to ground, not realizing that that is a very unhealthy practice and you're actually doing yourself a disservice in the ascension process by doing so. But Virgo energy rules over the stomach, the digestive system. And And because Mercury rules over Virgo and rules over the mental plane, our thoughts have a huge impact on our digestive system. Our stomach has more nerves in it than anything else. And believe it or not, what you are focused on in your mental plane has a direct effect on your digestive system. If you are overly anxious, which comes very naturally in Virgo season, if you are overly anxious, if you are stressed out, if you are fearful, that is going to put your stomach in a knot. That's where we get that saying from. And keep in mind that Virgo season is here to provide us with solutions to all of our problems. And we have to get down to the nitty-gritty, the details of what's causing said problems. And we're talking about the physical body here, and what you put into your physical body is either helping you or harming you. So you do have to focus more on what it is that you're putting in your body. We have to be focused on what it is that we're bringing into our bodies, period, through our focus, through our attention, which is the biggest thing really in our mental plane. What you focus on is what you bring to life. That's why there's no point in having anxiety or, trying to play all the different scenarios in your head, because they never work out in the way that you would have imagined anyways. And therefore you live through hell once trying to imagine and create the anxiety around the scenario. And then you live through hell twice when you actually go through the scenario and realize that, you know what, I thought about every angle, but I did not think about this one. And that anxiety, that anxiousness has a complete effect on your digestive system. So we want to pay attention to how the food, what we're putting in it. Well, we want to pay attention to, first of all, can we make better choices? Because that's what Virgo season should be about. I want you to take that sentence very seriously throughout Virgo season. Is this the best choice for me? Can I make a better decision, right? For everything. When you look at what it is that you're about to put in your body as far as food, is this the best choice for me? Could I make a better decision? When you're about to put your time, your energy, your attention, your focus on something, is this the best thing for me to be focused on? Could I make a better decision? This is about growth, improvement. This is about betterment, but we got to get down to the nitty gritty. That means overriding our unconscious programming, becoming very aware, very conscious, very conscientious, which does bring a certain element of stress. And we have to balance that stress in our mind, in our body, in our soul. Another topic and theme that Virgo season is going to be highly focused on. Where in your life are you making time to take care of your mind, your body, your soul? Are those three aspects in alignment with one another? Are they balanced in the energy exchange within your physical form? We have to do the work to prepare the physical body. The physical body, by the way, is the vessel that we've been gifted with to have our energy, our soul self, be able to navigate this 3D physical plane. As we are upgrading our energetic soul bodies, we have to do the work to better the temple in which we are having to use in this lifetime, which is our physical form. So our hunger is likely going to be changing again. Many of us have had that particular issue with the Ascension symptoms for God knows how long at this point. You will be noticing that you either are craving different foods or are not hungry at all, or so freaking hungry that you could go eat the grass off your lawn. Again, ask yourself, is this the best decision that I could make? Is there a better choice? But I also want you to just realize that if you're experiencing cramping or bowel issues, that you need to do a little bit better with what's going on in your mental plane. Yes, food can have an impact on cramps and your bowel patterns, but also you wouldn't be eating the crap that you're eating, creating the cramping and bowel issues, if your mind was happy and healthy, right? We only gravitate to junk food and things that aren't good for us when our mental health is suffering. So we have to make the connection here. And this is what this Virgo energy is all about, is making the connection from the mind to the body. That Mercury energy to the earth energy of Virgo, and seeing how when we change our perspective, our understanding, our attention, our focus, when we calm the mental plane down, it actually calms the stomach, the nerves in the stomach, and therefore the digestive system down as well. So if you're kind of having that urgency feeling in your bowel pattern, just recognize in your mental plane, what is it that you're feeling urgent about? What it is that you're feeling pressurized about, the intensity to have everything figured out now. What is that about? Because when you can resolve it in your mental plane, you will resolve it in your physical body as well. So we talked about the nervousness. We talked about the anxiety, especially around midweek. I want you to pay attention to that. I want you to recognize that it is, all in the mental plane as well. Anxiety is when we're constantly projecting ourselves in the future and not feeling like we have control over the elements that we want to have control over. It's a great practice that when that energy creeps up in you, that you ground. What does grounding mean? Well, it doesn't mean, it could mean go out and hug a tree if you wanted to, or bury your feet in the dirt or in the grass or in the sand. But what people seem to miss is that grounding is being aware of your physical body. So connecting to the five senses. If you took my elemental energy course, you would know that grounding, you don't have to even leave your environment to ground. You can connect to, the five things that you see, the four things that you hear, the three things that you smell, the two things that, you go through the senses. You have five senses. Technically, you have six because that's where intuition comes in. But go through the touch, go through the smell, go through the taste, go through the sight, the sounds, everything. And especially seeing how we just went through an integration and a recalibration going on in our energetic bodies and our central nervous system. Our sensory systems are jacked up, which means that you really do need to be stopping more often, connecting with your body, with your breath, taking in an inventory of what those five senses are currently experiencing. And when you do so, that is a grounding practice, is bringing the moment back in. And when you are focused on what the five senses are actually bringing in as far as data, information, and statistics from your exterior environment, you will realize that you don't really have time to be anxious because you're in control of your physical body, of your physical senses in the here and now. Your attention is diverted in a different way. So you really do have to kind of step up to being able to have more control over the anxiety. That's one of the things that, awakened people, spiritual people, empathic people complain the most is about anxiety. And the very first thing that they do is run to the doctor and get themselves on a medication that dumbs their senses down, that numbs out that part of the brain that's trying to align them with their higher self, with their higher consciousness. And that is the 3D matrix's way of keeping you trapped in the system and not being your best self, is by creating all these pharmaceuticals that numb you from your, I'm going to say, God self. And so we have to understand that as spiritual beings, the reason why we have the anxiety is because anxiety, as other emotions, are all energy, and energy needs to move. That's why energy equals motion, right? Motion. We got to keep the energy in motion, the emotions flowing. That's what Ascension is all about, is diving deep into the emotions, getting control over those emotions, having tools and resources to tackle said emotions so that we remain in control. And this week is going to be a prime time for you to see how in control of your emotions and of your energy you actually are. Because again, Uranus going retrograde, popping off the central nervous system, Mercury making a shift, popping off, again, the anxiety in our mental plane, Virgo season, bringing in a whole different focus, a whole different obsessive mentality to just rack our brains over and create anxieties about. Again, may I remind you that the Virgo energy, mind over matter, Mercury over Earth, okay? This is just, I'm trying to connect the dots for you here. I want you to constantly be saying these things in the moments where you feel like you're losing control over your mental plane, over your physical body. Mind over matter. If your body is feeling like crap, what is your mind focused on in order to make it feel like crap? When you switch your mind into something that feels good and safe and secure, imagine that your body feels better. It's time to put yourself to the test. We have to have more discipline Okay, more strength, more discipline over our emotions. Your mind has to be stronger than your emotions every time, or you will constantly be in a state of chaos in this lifetime. So it's a hard lesson to learn, but you're definitely going to have multiple opportunities this week to learn that lesson and to see where you stand in this particular learning process. To make matters even more anxious, once we have Mercury dive into Libra, we're going to be hella indecisive. That Libran energy, right? Just cannot decide on anything. And where, communication is affected and our thoughts, our ideas are affected, especially circling around the relationship. Keep in mind, when Mercury goes retrograde in Libra, we're going to see those weak ass relationships that y'all may still be in because you don't know how to get out of them. You're going to see karma kick you in the butt in order for those to fall apart. Relationships go through the ringer in the fall because of Libra season, but also go through the ringer because when Mercury is in Libra, we're highly focused on relationships. But when Mercury goes retrograde in Libra, that is when we get a chance to reflect, revisit, revise, redo, recollaborate. And guess what? Sometimes we just have to restart. Okay? We might have to cut the cord, kick some butts to the door. And for those of you that have been holding on desperately through these, very potent energetic portals that were meant for you to karmically see where it is that you are allowing your ego to have more strength in this lifetime, to hold on to people, places, and things that you don't know who you would be without. Again, Mercury going retrograde, gonna rock you. Retrograde season, gonna rock you. We have eclipse season coming up, people. It's gonna rock you. You have to be operating at your most authentic self, your aligned karmic self. And many of y'all out there are not doing that. You're holding on to old connections, to old people, to old jobs, to old ideas, to old versions of yourself because you're afraid of the unknown. You're afraid of who it is that you would now have to be without these attachments. Again, I'm bringing this full circle. Uranus going retrograde and Taurus energy is going to highlight for us in our inner realm journey where it is that you're too overly attached to people, places, and things in this materialistic realm and where that is currently blocking you from truly aligning with your authentic soul self. Again, the universe will rock you in ways in order to strip you down, take away the things that you're desperately holding on to in order for you to be set free. Because Lord Jesus knows they've given you many opportunities to free yourself. And here you still sit in a prison that you have created for yourself. So, disclaimer, pay attention to the conversations, to the ideas, to the relationship drama that comes up while Mercury dips his little toes in the Libran energy. We're not going to get too far into this Libran energy before Mercury goes retrograde. And that is when there is going to be all kinds of reorganizing going on in our relationships. So yeah, I think I went on that rant because the indecision is going to come up. Now, here's the thing. I can see the bigger picture. I can see the ups and downs. I know what we're constantly working towards. Let me just try to give you a little bit of chunk of time of the pattern that we're going through here. We went through the Lion's Gate. That's when we were torn. That's when our higher self chose the best path for us in order for us to learn the most about our power, our strength, our authentic purpose and mission in life. Many of us still trying to figure out what that actually means. We had a huge illumination and new information, new ideas, new perspectives under the full moon in Aquarius that gave us a different vision, a different picture of what it is that we thought our lives, our reality was going to look like. We come into Virgo season after having our heart really be popped off in Leo season, redefining what it is that makes us happy, brings us joy, what it is we are, I'm going to say, aggressively meaning to pursue at this particular point. We move into Virgo season. Now we got to rebalance some things. We have to really do a deep dive in what needs to stay, what needs to go. We need to restructure, reorganize our new lives. We move into harvest season. Now we're starting to see the energy, the effort, the rewards from our, I'm going to say, pain and trauma and suffering that we've been going through since, I would say, the beginning of the year, but really the beginning of our lifetime. We are in this, I'm going to say, calendar cycle where what we came into this year trying to bring to life is what we are going to see either come to fruition or drop off and no longer be a want, need, or desire for us as we move into the fall. So our next little push here, right, is going into Libra season. Why? Well, because that is the nether choice point. We come into Aries, right? Equinox. That is the spring equinox. We come into fall in Libra season. That is the fall equinox, right? Cancer season, which we just got out of, was summer solstice. Capricorn, that sits across from Cancer, which we will experience in December, is winter solstice. Those 4 points are our collective shift points. So right now, we're harvesting, we're manifesting, we're bringing things together, we're reorganizing, we're restructuring, we're bringing things to life, we're getting things situated, and then bam, equinox. That's when we balance things out again. And then we take the equinox energy up until the solstice energy in December to basically tie up the loose ends of this particular cycle. Once we move into the winter solstice, it is, well, technically it's game over for this particular calendar cycle, and then we begin again. There's the winter solstice, that's where things die. That's where things fall apart. That's where, the dreams, the visions that didn't come into fruition, where they dissolve. That's where the things that are still holding on that need to get out of the way dissolve, setting us up again for the rebirth that comes in Aries season with the new energetic calendar at the spring equinox. It's a whole cycle. That's why we use astrology, because we can tell from astrology where the highs are, where the lows are, where the changes are, where it's going to be hectic, where we have to push, where we have to stand back, where things come to life and where things die. Okay, so this is where we're at. This is the cycle that we're in. This is the pattern. I digress. I apologize. This is why we're going to feel the pressure right now, because it's the pressure to be better, to improve, to get all of our ducks in a row, to reap the rewards of what it is that we've already brought to life. Think of harvest season, right? These farmers in the spring set their seeds. They've spent this whole season trying to nurture their crop. Now it's harvest season, very short window of opportunity before the weather absolutely goes to crap and ruins their crop altogether. Now they are hustling, right? We have to move very fast in order to make sure that we are getting our crop in, that we are harvesting our crop at the prime time before Mother Nature essentially says, no, time over, crop is ruined, right? All of our hard work for nothing. So there is kind of this urgency, this intensity for us to get out there and to slave drive ourselves until we harvest every last bit of our crop to get us through, okay, let me tie this together for you, to get us through the winter season. That's what harvest season is all about, is getting the crop in to get us through the winter season. What happens in the winter season? Well, the winter solstice happens, right? That's when we move inwards. That's when we're not happening out in life so much, when we're kind of recalibrating, we're resting. We are kind of, I'm going to say, reorganizing, restructuring our inner realms. We're going through another quote unquote death in preparation for the rebirth that comes in the spring. It's a whole cycle. So that's where the pressure is going to come at us, especially this week. There's a huge emphasis. It is going to take a while to acclimatize to this, especially after the new moon in Virgo next weekend. We will likely start seeing things happen very quickly in our physical realms. This week is about getting our mind right, being able to handle the pressure without it totally destroying our physical health. And that being said, I want you to pay attention to your anger, to your impulse. We have Mars, okay, the god of war, in Gemini energy, entering into the realm, the battlefield, if you will, of the intellect, of the mental plane. Now, again, please listen to the astro forecast if you haven't already. But let me just say, We are going to have some high highs and some low lows from now until March when it comes to our energy, our action, our passion, our desire, but most of all, how well we are educated and informed. What we thought we knew will be totally destroyed. And from that destruction, something new will be birthed out of that. And by the time that we are in March, right before we get reborn, mind you, with the Aries energy, with the spring energy, we will be in a totally different mindset, totally different perspective, totally different focus, total different goals, totally different just way of perceiving life. It's going to be a long haul. But the reason why I bring this up now is because Mars, being an inner planet, anytime he shifts, we need a little bit of time to adjust. And he is fire energy. He is also like the toddler of the zodiac, if you will. No impulse control whatsoever, can throw a tantrum in 0 to 60 seconds and then be totally over it, not realizing the damage that he did to everyone else around him at that time. And then again, we're on cleanup crew. We have to understand that impulse is very high with this Mars energy, and our tongue is the sword that Mars will be yielding from now until March. Be very careful with your words. Your words can hurt, okay? Your words can hurt. Your thoughts can hurt as well. This is the Gemini energy that we're going to have to navigate. But especially this week, we got a lot of pressure in our head space. This is going to make us easily agitated, easily triggered, easily activated. That head pressure is going to continue. Like I said, I've had a migraine now for the last freaking week. Those CMEs and solar flares didn't help. Now it's kind of, I'm going to say, downgraded to a headache in the back of my head, in my neck. And many people should be feeling that as well, because we just went through a recalibration of the 33 vertebrae in our spine. Why is that important? Because that's Jacob's ladder, my friends. That's the Kundalini energy, and that we're trying to rise from the base of our root chakra to our third eye, to our crown. That is how we get enlightened. That is how we get more awareness. That is how we evolve in our consciousness. Many of us having some blockages in our backs, feeling those back aches, back cracks, lower hip joint pain. The pressure coming in from our heads, though, that's crown activated. Popping our ears like we're in an airplane, sinus pressure like we have a sinus infection, headaches, teeth aches, jaw tension, jaw stiffness. Pay attention to what's going on to the mouth, to the throat this week. Yes, there's going to be throat activations. Pay attention to Mars and Gemini, right? From now until March. Like I said, words can hurt. Words can totally cut people down, cut ourselves down. Be mindful of the narrative that you have within yourself. Be mindful of what it is that you allow to leave your mouth. That being said, pay attention to teeth pain, gum discomfort, gum swelling, gum redness, gum bleeding, biting our tongue, biting our lips. We may have cracked corners of our lips this week. That throat dryness or itchiness, soreness, clearing. Again, throat chakra popping off. We got a lot to say. We got to be mindful. Use our filter. Mars and Gemini does not have a filter, people. We're going to have to learn how to implement that filter from now until March. Okay? I am serious when I say pay attention to the greater, grander global stage here, and where information is coming out from the last 2 years. Okay, totally going to re-educate some people, change the game, change the understanding, change the perspective. And in your personal lives, recognize where anger is coming up to be expressed in a healthy, communicative way. If you can't express it in a healthy way, then bite your tongue. Bite your lips, deal with the soreness in your mouth until you can emotionally and intellectually communicate with clarity and confidence in a healthy way. Anger does need to be expressed, but you can't be popping off like a toddler, hurting people's feelings, making other people hurt and be in pain and suffering just because you're hurt and in pain and suffering. We're beyond that. That's shadow work. If you're still there, if you still recognize that within yourself, you need to do a deep dive a little bit further in the shadow. This is going to be a great time with Mars and Gemini for you to awaken to where it is that you need to boss up emotionally, intellectually, in your communication skills, and how it is that you actually express yourself. the way that you use your tongue as a weapon. It is going to be a very dramatic life lesson for a whole hell of a lot of people. So what else do I want? Oh, nails. I want you to pay attention to your nails, and I want to pay attention to your hair. We're going to go through another change. Now, a couple months ago, we had our nails breaking, cracking, being brittle. With our hair, it either was over extra oily or so freaking dry that it was just falling out in clumps. I want to just give you this reminder. If you are someone who is losing a lot of hair, be aware not to freak out, first of all. Of course, you do want to do your due diligence, make sure it's not a medical issue, but I'm going to say that it's likely not. Because of the crown issues that we're having, all the energy, all the light codes coming in from the crown, that's a lot of heat, a lot of energy, a lot of information coming in from the crown. This has a huge effect on our hair. I also want you to keep in mind that if you're losing hair, we store information in our hair. Our pain, our trauma gets trapped in our hair. So if you are losing your hair, especially in big clumps, it's a huge indication that you're actually healing. Again, I feel the need to say the disclaimer, do your due diligence, use your brain. If you think you do have a medical condition, then, go see a doctor about it. But many times this will resolve by itself. We're in a new phase of life. We're in a new reality. We're in a new vibration and frequency, which means that the lower vibrations and frequencies, the emotional pain and trauma that is stored in your hair, it's got to go. This is a way to thin ourselves out. Our ancestors, after, a death of someone in the tribe or what have you, something painful that happened, they would go through a hair cutting ceremony to cut those quote unquote dead ends off. Our hair is our antenna. It's the connection that we have to the ethereal realm. So if your hair is going through a change, it means that the connection that you have to your higher self, to the ethereal realms, is changing. If you are losing your hair, it means that, you're going through a purge, a healing, a release, where that lower vibrational frequency from the memories and the trauma being stored in those hair follicles, where they are being released from your physical body so that there can be a regenerative situation take place where new healthy hair strands that are open to packing new information and new, I'm going to say, details about your life are ready to be grown in your head. Like I said, hair is, it is how we store our memories, our information, our DNA, our pain, our trauma, our happiness. So we have to pay attention to when we're going through a life change, life cycle, which we currently are. We just went through the Lion's Gate. We're wrapping this particular cycle up. This is harvest season, where we have to expect that there are going to be changes in our hair and in our nails. So I want you to pay attention to that, especially with the nails. Pay attention to what's going on with your nails. If there's any particular hand or finger that, certain changes are happening to, nail beds being bumpy or cracking or being see-through or not as strong or whatever the case may be. Like I've been talking about, each and every single time we receive a new set of light codes and they get activated and come online, that is trying to repair our hand chakras. Our hands are very powerful, but we got basically genetically modified by another intelligent race to shut the power down in our palms, in our feet, our souls. There's a reason why in Christianity, Jesus is depicted with nails through his feet and through his hands, which is the indicator from the race that rules over us that our palm and soul chakras were essentially disarmed, were disabled, if you will. And we get that information in many different ways through studying all kinds of religious texts and all kinds of ancestral texts as well. But we are constantly in this repairment stage, if you will, and that's why we're having a lot of injuries, a lot of attention drawn to our hands, drawn to our feet. So pay attention for that. So guys, I think that's everything that I'm going to cover for this week. It is going to be a little bit of a bumpy week. We do have a lot of astrological situations popping off. We do have a lot of change in energies popping off. There's a huge amount of energy taking place in our mental plane and in our central nervous system. We are going to feel heavily weighted and a little bit like the universe is kind of pumping the brakes on our progress, on our lives, on our time, only because we are moving out of that very fiery, very spontaneous fire energy of Leo. And of course, grounding out, coming back down to earth, getting a little bit of a bitch slap of a reality check in this Virgo energy. So I just want to thank you for sitting with me, for showing up in the chat, for dropping some comments below. I want to thank you for the love, for the support. I want to thank you for not only showing up for me, but for showing up for yourself. I hope you have a beautiful week, and we'll talk to you soon.